Let's do it. Stand by.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Amulet and also our criteria for picking movies for the show, but we can get to that very soon. First up, joining me, please welcome Cece to the show.
Hey, sorry, I
Wow.
was still muted, and I was
just
like,
look
oh god,
shocked.
oh god.
Next up on, you're here, right? Everything okay?
Well, yes, but rarely do you throw to me first.
I know,
so I
no
was like,
intro
oh, I got
either.
a second.
Hot out of the gate. Next up on the show from Chicago, Illinois, please welcome Joe.
What's up, fuck faces?
Back from his absolute Eric nightmare vacation, which we'll talk about later. Next up on the show from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And finally tonight, from parts unknown, please welcome John Schnars.
Hello, Eric.
John, your hockey hair is magnificent tonight.
Well,
So, like, during the day, do you, like, slick it up and back, or, like, you, like, letting it part? Like, what's going on with it?
Cece, I just let it go where it wants to go most days. Well, so I run in the morning, and then I'll usually jump in the pool instead of showering, and that's kind of like I've now like washed for the morning.
Cool.
Oh,
And-
no.
Dude, you're really committed to this whole lifestyle
Do
here.
you
I like
wash
it.
your feet
Yeah.
in there?
I know. Wow.
No, scrub the feet. You gotta go.
Oh.
hard.
Yeah,
the
please leave all of your foot stuff in the pool for everyone else to swim in. That's great.
Yeah,
It's-
guys, there's like
But
a
the pool
skimmer
has
on-
chlorine in it, right? like
Yeah,
you
oh,
know
yes.
that's not a shower, right? Like
No.
that's
Joe,
Wait,
I don't you
you're-
Joe, you
you're
should stay out of this
rinsed.
conversation,
I
okay?
like that you're willing to, quote unquote, take a bath in the pool, but then you wanted to give me a hard time about buying soap in bars instead of in
That
containers.
has nothing to do with the soap itself. I was saying to Casey before the show, I just don't want to think about taking care of the hair. As soon as I have to think about it, it's coming off.
Yeah.
That's where I land.
John,
on
I
it. So,
think you should love yourself a little more and
yeah.
give yourself
man.
the
I think
self-care you
you passed
deserve.
the point where like
Yeah.
you should be thinking about
I
it.
might be loving myself.
I just had a really good idea, and then we can move on. I think new Patreon tier, and if we reach it, you get a Skrillex haircut.
There's no way.
Can we make that happen?
It's
John,
there's no amount of money.
John.
I don't think.
You're working
There is,
remotely.
but
You're
it's
working
not.
remotely. Everyone has a price. These are two things that are true.
I have to be on video conference calls with work. Though. It's not like no one sees me. But I
You
will
know-
explain it to them for the right amount of money. That's all.
Look, that's what I'm
Mm.
You know the
saying.
biggest benefit I found of quarantine hair? The comb over.
Yeah.
There you
Pretty
go.
intense. Everyone's got a whole situation going on. All right,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Like I said, we're here tonight to talk about Amulet. I don't know what this movie's deal is, but I have a lot of questions. But before we do that, Joe,
Mhm.
welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
Please tell us what we are drinking tonight.
Beer guts.
Amulet. I don't know. It's a movie about a guy who moves in with some people, and at some point they go dancing. So I picked a beer that they might enjoy while they're dancing. It's from the fine folks at Microphone Brewing. That's it's about 10 minutes from me in Elk Grove, Illinois. Come visit if you get the chance. The beer I picked from them is their Disco Lemonade, which is a great, delicious beer if you want to do some dancing with your roommate slash concubine
Slash
I don't-
witch lady person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Slash caretaker of the demon lady in the attic.
Yes,
Someone's gotta explain it. When-
It's the perfect beer for that.
Not to jump into this, but like when Cece texted and said like this is over my head, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how am I supposed to get this?
I will say I did a lot of reading afterwards. It was just there's been very few movies where I'm like, I need to dig into this before I can like start making my own.
Well, I'm
like,
glad you
Yeah.
did. I'm glad you did some reading because I had zero desire to. So I'm glad somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, once I read it, I was like, I really like this movie a lot, but it took a minute.
Anywho, so Disco Lemonade is an IPA, but they use lemon peel, lemon juice, and lactose in the brewing process. So
So if you're lactose tolerant, you can't drink it.
not this one, no. I'm
Weird.
sorry. But it does give it like I've talked a lot about like milkshake IPAs and New England IPAs. It has like sort of that creaminess to it, which it's all the rage with the kids right now, and I'm a big fan. But like a ton of so like hops in general have like a citrus flavor to them.
Wait,
but,
what just happened? What did I miss?
When you put
I
the
don't wanna
orange peel and the lemon juice in this, like it just kind of ups it to another level. I really enjoy this beer. I like everything Microphone puts out. They don't distribute very far, so you got to kind of come here to get it. But it's definitely worth the trip if you can make it. 7% alcohol, so it's a little bit up there. But again, what the hell else do you have going on these days?
Hotel rooms very cheap in Chicago right now.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Yeah.
So-
Or hey, rent an RV, come out and visit.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Nice.
Microphone, that's with a K, brewing.com is their website. And yeah, everything they put out is great. They're fairly new, like only been around 2 or 3 years, but really, really good stuff. So yeah, there you go.
All right, thank you for that, Joe.
Thank you.
It is time. Let's take a quick break and review Amulet.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars.
Eric.
Getting a little worried about your ability to come up with words the more you look like Joe Dirt.
Wow.
Just
I'm
saying.
like, I'm just a man of the people here.
Yeah, Andy filled in with you
Get
last
those
week.
words.
He did a great
Did
job.
he? Did he do a word?
He did.
I was curious.
I told
haven't listened
him.
to the show.
I told him 30 seconds before the show, and he nailed it.
I mean, there would never be a doubt in my mind.
Have you seen Maniac Cop? You should really see it.
No, and you know what's funny? I'm pissed because it's like I need an excuse to watch it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just gotta
It's
watch
on
it.
Shudder. It's super fun. You'll like. If you dig that Cohen stuff, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
The Coen brothers did the Maniac?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Damn.
at first I was like, I think different Cohen.
There's a
Right.
lot of semen jokes in it, Joe. You gotta
Huh.
kind of understand.
What
see it to
was his
understand.
word, though?
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
Moist.
you gotta,
I don't remember.
What was his word?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
Email
we'll
me.
Word? Oh,
We'll
all
circle
right.
back to the episode.
I guess you didn't nail it that much.
All right, John. Please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, Amulet.
You fucker. Get the
Guess
fuck
what?
out of here.
Hadn't done it before, and it's actually important, right? Because
Go back to the Outer Banks, John.
what an amulet is, I wasn't 100% sure, and I wouldn't say it's super helpful for understanding the film, but it's at least like somewhat helpful. Amulet, AMULET, an ornament or small piece of jewelry thought to give protection against evil, danger, or disease.
Hmm.
Like a statement necklace, John? You ever,
Uh,
you ever wore one of those?
Or like one of those things where you like get your mom and then you buy her like, oh, it's a soccer ball for Christmas, and then it's like just like that, right?
Like a charm bracelet?
Yeah.
it's just like that actually. Yeah.
It's
You guys
exactly
just-
like that.
Get yourself
God,
a
I feel
Pandora charm
so
bracelet.
bad for y'all's
I
significant
can't-
others.
I know.
Cece,
Uh,
I'm making a
that's,
joke.
Okay, well,
Good lord.
still.
The origin here.
Listen,
I don't wanna
Cece,
get
in
too
third
much-
grade, I gave my mom Ninja Turtle earrings for Christmas, and she still wears them, okay?
Hey,
Oh,
that's
just saying.
okay. But I'm talking about like the, K's.
No,
Whatever. We won't go
I know
there.
what you're saying. Carry on,
We
John.
won't go there.
Yeah. All right. Origin here, Latin, amuletum.
Oh, okay.
So it's it's basically the same.
That's exactly the
um,
way that Joe and I understand Latin. You just put extra letters on the end of the word.
Just put a um at the end.
Amulet.
Amulet. So there you are, Eric.
Thank you.
It's a word.
It's hot. All right. Tell me about this movie.
Amulet is a British horror film. Comes to us from pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys looked at the director here. It's a woman, Ramala Garai. Um,
God,
she this is a directorial debut. She is the writer and director, and so pretty different. We've seen a lot of movies from, I feel like, first timers this year. She has like a very extensive 20-year career as an actress, and she's our age. She's 38. So this is her first film. I was trying to look to see where we might know her from. I'll give you the most likely thing is Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. She was the lead in that. She played the main female lead in that film. But she's been in a ton of British stuff, ton of British TV. She was in Atonement. If anyone's seen Atonement, it's a pretty good movie.
which is a better name for this movie than Amulet. But
Well, it was already taken. She was already in the movie, So, but yeah, so I don't know. That was pretty interesting to me. So I will say I knew nothing about this movie coming in. I'd seen the trailer, yeah, I mean, so the basic plot is that you have this guy Tomas, and I should have researched where he's from. He is a refugee living in London. He's a war refugee. So I was thinking this was like the former Yugoslavian republics, but maybe it's like Chechnya. I don't know if anyone. Like,
it also seemed like weirdly time set, like it might be near future or something like that.
Well, or like past. Like there was
I
no.
guess it was hard to
going on.
it was hard to pin down.
But
It
I
could
also
have been
think, just
90s.
as a heads up, like I think that that's very pertinent to the story, that like there's not a time stamp on this because,
Right.
as we discuss later, like it's a very ongoing
I get it.
situation.
You're smart, Cece.
Well, and the actor who plays Tomas, he's Romanian, right? So it's a pretty international film, right? So he is he's a refugee living in London. He's basically living in like a flop house. I think it was a flop house. He's effectively homeless, but I don't think it was like a
Flop
homeless shelter. It was more of like a building that he's living in.
Squatters.
Well, it's
Are you
like
from-
it's like an encampment that like a bunch of like
Yeah.
refugees have kind of like
Yes.
set up themselves.
Flophouse would
Flophouse
be
is
like the
the,
1930s term.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Twenty
So-
I
Curious
mean,
to
it
do.
is not good.
He's hanging
it
out
is
of one of
not
them
good
juke joints.
living situation.
No, and
Sure.
we also see that
He's
he's
one of those dandies.
He's sleeping each night on his back with his hands taped together. He's taping his own hands together, which is, again, it's sort of like a minor thing that becomes pertinent later. There's basically a fire at this place he's living, and he ends up on the street. He's lost a lot of his stuff, and this nun finds him and sort of brings him into a church or some kind of religious building, and is sort of like, hey, like, we can help you. I'm actually going to place you at this woman's house, and she's there. This woman's living there. She's taking care of her mother who's dying, and you're going to live there, and the house is falling down. So if you can just do a little work to like help keep it up, like, that would be great. Meanwhile, we're getting a lot of flashbacks to this guy Tomas's time as a soldier in his home country, again, sort of left undefined, Eastern European, I guess I would say, and it kind of that's the setup. I mean, it kind of cuts back and forth pretty heavily. I mean, we get a lot of the backstory between of Tomas as a soldier, but then it's a lot of him living in this house where there's this older woman on the top floor, where like creepy noises are being heard, and then there's a young woman, Magda, who he's effectively living with, and sort of developing a relationship very slowly. The nun here is played by Imelda Staunton, Oscar nominated.
She looks familiar, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she's been in a ton.
Which one looked familiar?
The Nun.
The Nun. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
She's in Harry Potter.
All right.
She's in Shakespeare in Love. She's in The Crown. She played Queen Elizabeth in The Crown. So, I mean, she's been in a ton of stuff. In any event, that's the setup. And like, I don't know, the movie, I don't want to like spoil too much, but I do think we obviously are going to need to get there. So like, I don't know, should we stop? And
I haven't heard a word you said, so yeah, let's stop and we'll just move
good.
on.
That's helpful.
Joe, what'd you think?
I'll be
Actually,
honest,
should we begin actually just by reading the text message conversation we all had today?
And look,
It's the first time we haven't had an email about the film in a
Yeah.
long.
I know we should have emailed, but sure. Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, all I did was text and say, "Have we talked about this?" And like, usually there's weeks of back and forth on what movie you're doing. It's not my fault that you lemmings ran to the ran
Well,
over the mountainside.
For starters, there seemed to be a failure to agree on who chose this movie for. Did you guys work that part out?
I mean, I sent the trailer, so I guess I'll take credit for it.
It was on the list of movies that we had already discussed, or like I had sent out, I think, even with the trailer. And then Joe was like, "Have we talked about this?" And it was like, "Great, done." So,
All I know is I got an email from Schnars that said nothing but Amulet, and I said, "Okay, boss, I'm on it."
Yeah, I think
That
I was
is
just
true.
tired. Just gave in.
But anyway, I got more out of John's description than I did out of watching this movie because I had no idea what the hell was going on. And you know, I should say like that's also combined with like I've been driving for the last 10 days and I might not be the most focused as I have been, which is usually not very much to begin with. But
Yeah, I know you, Joe. You wouldn't have liked this normally.
yeah, so I should say I tried to watch this last night with the missus after asking John, like, "Hey, is this one that we could watch together?" To which he said, "Probably."
So,
And, like
in
5 minutes in, I'm
okay.
like, "No, that was wrong."
In John's defense, though, I think my guess is all he meant was like, this is not some horribly offensive thing you can't watch. with your wife.
that's exactly. There was not like
John doesn't know your
gratuitous, like,
wife,
shit
Joe.
happening out. Like I
Yeah.
had no idea what Leslie. I think if she watched to the end, maybe she would have been like,
No.
"Oh, interesting."
Absolutely not.
Interesting.
Like,
All right.
we
Well, I'm glad I've learned some things about Leslie.
yeah,
So-
Sean. I'm gonna set up a Zoom call for you two to get to know each other, so this doesn't happen again.
I love that.
But I mean, it's very slow. It's very, very slow. It does pick up, and I did find it somewhat enjoyable towards the end, but I think I was lost for the majority of the movie, and it kind of left me confused. So I don't know. I wasn't a giant fan.
Cece,
CC or
Cece.
Casey?
the witch.
Oh, I thought you said Casey.
I couldn't tell you.
I didn't know how else
I
to
was like-
differentiate. I'm sorry.
Nope. Even after the second time. So yeah, I went in totally blind on this movie. I hadn't heard anything or read anything about it, and I will say, starting off, I was really intrigued by what was happening. I really couldn't figure out, where the movie was going per se, and definitely took me some extra reading to get to that point. I think that visually it's especially for a first time film, visually it's stunning. And I think that everything building up to the atmosphere, to the kind of like strange tension that not only the characters are, experiencing, the tension between them really helps play into the plot of the movie. And once I figured out what the plot of the movie was, I was super into it. So when we get there, I have my symbolism definitely queued up. But I just think that it's hard going in. It's one of those movies that it's hard going in without an idea of what's going on. And maybe that's because I was watching it, but I maybe wasn't fully invested in it at first.
It's one of those things, if you
And-
can't go and be laser focused, even if you are, it's hard. But if you can't,
Yeah.
it's really easy to
Yeah.
lose the thread. Because there's long, like, wordless stretches, which is always for me how I zone out too much.
Yeah, I mean, I was just painting my nails, so I was like looking down for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I was like, wait, hold on. So there were several times I like rewound.
Well,
the
it also
movie,
jumps around a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, like I think that really, the setup of the movie and the way that the flashbacks or kind of the storytelling is played out for you visually is smart, and I didn't have a problem with it. It's just you definitely have to be prepared that like this is a movie that requires a lot of your attention, and it's not a passive watch at all.
Casey.
Yeah. So ultimately, I ended up liking this movie. I struggled a lot with the first hour of it. The first hour of this movie is a challenge if you don't know what you're getting into and whatnot. Once you get to, because I remember I texted you guys today about halfway through, right at about the 1 hour mark, and I'm like, I hope the second half gets better. And it's literally about the 1 hour mark that this movie, it doesn't take like a hard right turn in the sense of what we usually use a hard right turn for on the show, but it definitely engages into its second act, and it takes kind of a different route, and it's a lot solider and more interesting from that point. Not to say that the first half isn't interesting. The first half's building to everything that's going off in the second half. It's when, if you feel like you're struggling at the beginning, stick it out is what I would say.
I can agree with that for sure.
John.
Yeah, I had a really kind of weird experience with this in that I sat down to watch it pretty late in the evening, thinking like, I guess it was Monday or maybe Sunday night, and I'm like, like I'll pound through half and then pick it up tomorrow, which is like kind of how I tend to watch a lot of these movies. And I started watching it, and I could not stop watching, and ended up staying up, past my bedtime, and
You couldn't find the
finished
remote.
it.
Is that what happened, Jim?
Well, it was my laptop on my lap, and my lap was very hot, but I powered through, Joe.
Tell us more, Joe.
No, I mean, look, like it is slow, but like for me, I found the character Tomas really interesting, right? So this is what's, I mean, this maybe can act as an entry point into, the rest of the discussion, but like Tomas is the main character, but he. And you're set up to view him very sympathetically, but you are given these hints that he's maybe like, it's not even that he's like a bad guy, but that there's like something, I don't know, there's just like darkness going on around him. It's structured such that there's these cross-cutting narratives of the flashback and then the present day. And so there's a little bit of like, what the fuck's going on? For me, like the Tomas story was enough to kind of like pull me through that first half without a problem. As soon as you get to the first, I think it's actually like the midpoint of the film, like the script midpoint, and also probably around the like time midpoint, when you see the bat, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like that's like the first like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
That's definitely a part where it picks up for sure.
Yeah, and look, like for me, I mean, you guys know, like the films I love like Cronenberg films. Like I love like when just like weird shit starts happening that it's not even that it's like extra textual or like beyond, outside the realm of what you might expect. It's more like, it points to a broader universe, and it points to something like deeper. And for me, that was like enough to kind of keep me going forward. If anything, my biggest critique of this, and we can talk about it as we get to the end of the film, is like, there actually comes a point where there's like a shitload of exposition, like in the last like 10 minutes of the movie, where I was like, probably could have done without that. There's like one specific shot, honestly, I would have cut. But
You know where you could use exposition? In the rest of the movie.
Well, no, but like we'll get to it. But so yeah, I would say I love this movie. Like I really, really like this movie a lot. And I'm not like surprised that everyone was kind of like lukewarm on it, or that some of y'all were like, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I don't know. There are aspects of it that I am into, but overall, like, it's just the other side of like fart smelling for me that I'm not really down with it. Like, it's too art housey for me. It kind of weirdly.
I feel like as a quick jump in, I feel like John and I are about to like go off the deep end in a few minutes. Then after,
no, that's fine. No, that's totally fine.
John's British.
That's totally fine. But my problem is like,
it's not actually that art house.
No, John, fuck you, John. It's super art. Like, it reminds me in some ways of the arc of a dark song, where you've got basically, some creepy stuff happening. There's like spiritual underpinnings, and then essentially what it's doing is like leading you up to this really kind of visually shocking religious experience. Like, the stories are different, but the arc is kind of the same, right? I love the visual at the end of the movie. Like, it's actually kind of incredible and insane. But for me personally, I don't like movies that are this like obtuse for the entire runtime. It's very hard for me to get my bearings in a way that I don't enjoy in movies. And so that stuff is kind of a non-starter for me. What I do really appreciate is the actress in particular, like her slow, because she's really, she's weird and shy at first, and like they've got kind of this cute thing together, and it's like then she's endearing, and then she starts to like fall in love with him, and this middle section's like kind of sweet where she's like courting him almost. He's kind of weirded out, but she's just like her vibe is so interesting. It's like she's a shut-in and she doesn't really have a lot of like social contact. And so she's awkward, but she's also just like really cute and she's like really sweet with him and it eventually kind of wins him over. But then like the second she gets his hooks in him, like it all turns. And that part is really cool. Like seeing her subtle acting shifts when she starts getting menacing. And it's hard throughout most of the movie to like tell what is going on. You know what I mean?
Which I'm sorry.
That's okay. So no, I really enjoyed that part of it. I think it's visually a really interesting movie. I love the creature effect stuff when it does come out. The bat thing is like super disgusting. I love like just when they're upstairs with the old hag lady and like all that shit. It's kind of a fascinating dynamic. It's definitely a movie that you're watching it and I'm like, obviously there's so much going on under the hood here, but like I'm stupid. You got to spell it out like a little bit more for me because I'm not, unless you're like fucking like auteur level, I'm not gonna like go and read about this movie afterwards. You know what I mean? Like I would not be watching this movie if it wasn't for the show. I appreciate you guys are gonna do that and tell me and explain it to me, but just personally, like if I'm out there in movie watching land, I'm not gonna do it. So like it just didn't do it for me. Although I think there are some really interesting aspects to it. This just isn't my thing. I'd love to see this director take something on that's a little more linear or something, or like a little, I don't know, a little easier to grasp.
Yeah, that's a fair shot. So that's the biggest thing I struggled in this movie is the time jumps, and they kind of jumped around to different parts of the story, and that threw me off a little bit until it finally clicked of what was going on. So they were like, we would jump to the main character. Was it Tomas, the main character? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We jump back to his past, and you could tell by the condition of his beard, and you might jump to a different time in the past and whatnot. And that's the parts that I struggled putting this together as a coherent whole until closer to the end.
Well, and to kind of make it a little clearer, like just the plot in general, because I feel like the actual, I mean, John gave a really good synopsis, but like,
Thank you.
it's a very surface.
It was all right.
It was the surface synopsis. So essentially, like we have this character Tomas who, even at the beginning, excuse me, of the movie, you can tell that like he's very in tune with like not necessarily his spirituality, but like he knows that there's more going on. Like,
Well, he's a philosophy PhD.
Yeah.
They show
that's true.
there's a lot of like philosophy or like very literary name dropping type things.
Exactly, and I think that like you're supposed to be picking up on those aspects a lot quicker than like if you're paying attention completely, you might pick up on that a little sooner than halfway through when he's at the house and then the nun's like, oh, or Magda's like, oh, you're a philosopher, and it's like, yeah, but you're supposed to kind of know that beforehand. Yeah. And when he finds this amulet, like there's all these references to the old gods and how like there's no rectifying your behavior contemporarily with old gods. And I think that once things really start going off the rails, when he moves into this house to help, quote unquote, help Magda, because this nun says that that's perfect for him to do, everything starts to kind of like make sense a little bit better. But I do think that as much as I complain about movies being too heavy-handed, I think that this might have been a little too light in that regards as well.
I mean, it's okay to make movies for smart people. I just don't want to watch them.
Well, I mean, I think I'm a very smart person, but I mean, I will also admit when I'm like, wow, this movie was very over my head. I mean,
you need like a syllabus and a think piece to understand this movie, and that's kind of where I draw the line.
Well, but I mean, by the time you get to the end of it, so not to spoil the ending, but like once we start figuring out that like there are basically the being that's in the attic that Magda is being tasked with. Magda says it's her mother, but we find out that it's actually a demon, and the nun kind of has this like whole monologue about how you know, demons are essentially immortal, that they need to be contained and they need to be watched. And so there's these girls who, you know, essentially have to babysit them until they die, or they like wither away because they're not getting energy from being evil. And once that kind of starts turning and you start picking up on the aspects of this isn't really Magda's mother, and like this is kind of the exposition of flashbacks for Tomas and what he's done in the past, and what you start referencing from Magda's mother starts making sense that this whole movie is very cyclical, and that this is something that's very never ending. So then once we get references to like ancient gods and like Neolithic goddesses, you're like, oh, this is on that level.
Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing.
That's
actually.
the level that Eric is usually operating.
Was the
on. So
amulet?
it's
I was
weird.
curious. Like, was the amulet imagery that comes from somewhere, right? Because I've seen that in other movies. Like, I swear I've seen that in Guillermo del Toro movies or something.
So I mean, yes, like I mean, it.
I'm pretty sure this. I'm pretty
definitely-
sure that kind of pops up in one of the Prometheus movies too.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has you know, similarities to that, but actually, the writer director talked about this in a interview for some like some screening for it. But she basically said that she tried to come up, like, make it completely up because she didn't want it to be a direct like derivative of any specific religion, but that it was based on Neolithic pre-Christian goddesses and how like they're, you know, they're totems of femininity but also protection and, you know, kind of just connection in general to,
Well,
you know,
It was pretty
at the same
reminiscent
time.
of a standard fertility idol too.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's
Mm.
that's what I was gonna say, because I think it was pregnant. At least it looked.
Well, I mean, it
the-
looks like the Venus, you know, the Venus sculptures that we see a lot, especially.
You shouldn't assume these things, John. It's rude.
Am I the only one who keeps getting weirded out by the fact that John said this was the lead in Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights? This conversation.
She, the director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
the
you
best,
are the only one,
best
actually, I
Dirty
think.
Dancing movie. It's really so. I don't know if you guys watch this on a TV or with headphones, but I had headphones on. The sound mix is real crazy. It actually, I mean, what I will say about the movie is it has a great like creeping sense of dread to it. Like everything's just uncomfortable, and they really lean into the sound design, like lots of weird liquid squishy noises, and like everything eaten in this movie sounds disgusting.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
Well, all
first
the
scene
stuff
where
that
they
makes
show
it
like his face,
Yeah,
like,
it's not
right
great.
up while he's in. I'm like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
But yeah,
The,
but I think it lends to the uneasiness that the movie makes you feel the whole time.
No, I mean
Yeah.
structurally, it's really similar to any of these, like a Jacob's Ladder or something, where you have an untrustworthy narrator or
Right.
protagonist, and they're like descending through some level of insanity. Now, it's not insanity in this case. He's sane, and what he's doing is like coming to terms with his own past and like
And guilt. Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
his guilt. But yeah, I mean, that's where, like, for me, in some ways, it's like a fairly simple film. Now, it is,
Right.
it's made much more complicated. And as Cece was saying, like, I actually feel like they went a long way. This director went a long way to like explain the shit out
Oh
of it.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I.
Yeah.
It's not
by the
that,
time
but
we
yeah,
get
but
to
at the
I was
end,
like,
my
I'm
point is,
impressed, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that like exposition at the end, but like the whole time I'm just like, when
Yeah,
am I going
like,
to understand this?
at the end is fine. My
But that
point
was
is that
me.
my point is that I want the movie up until the end to be enjoyable, and for me personally, I need a little more of like a trail to follow. You know?
Well, but I mean, on the other hand, like I didn't dislike this movie. I was really like intrigued and enthralled with it, especially it being such a like cosmically and viscerally horror type of like. I mean, this is very like it's very contemporary. It's very relevant to today. It's
Yeah.
very you know, the writer director herself like describes it as a feminist horror movie. So like all
It's
of
a super feminist
oh
horror
yeah,
movie,
I mean
would
it
say.
is hardcore,
Yes.
and I appreciate that like all of the visceral events in this movie are very very feminine. Like there's this intense, like there's multiple intense birthing scenes. There's so much blood. There's so much like, and I really liked to, I thought it was very, very foreshadowing that the moment that Tomas is like trying to be manly and like fix the toilet, that Magda comes in and she sees him pull out this bat that somehow ended up in the flushed down the toilet, and she drops like a bundle of sheets and there's blood all over it, and you think she's embarrassed, and he's like, you shouldn't be embarrassed about that, it's natural. So you're like, okay, cool, like he's a progressive, like understanding person. But then by the time you get to the end of the movie, you're like, ooh, dude, you didn't know what was in store.
Yeah, no,
Really
that's a really
rough.
great little like misdirect, but
Yeah,
really
for
in
sure.
that scene all I could think of was that she does not understand how to take care of her plumbing,
Oh
because
no, I would like.
you do
no,
not
no,
flush
because-
that thing down the toilet, dude.
First of all, I thought it was a cat. I'm like,
That's
that
what
thing
it
is
looks like, yeah.
ginormous to be flushed down the toilet. It's not cereal.
Do you know what it looks
And
like?
then-
It looks like those
Thank you,
stupid.
Cece.
It looks like those stupid like skeleton animals you
It
get at
does.
Target on Halloween.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Which
Spirit
is
of Halloween.
funny.
It's like, hey,
And
we're
that-
Target. We just gave up on good decoration, so here's 40 fucking skeleton animals that make no sense anatomically that we just bought from a Chinese factory.
Yeah.
It's a spider
Well,
skeleton.
Yeah,
They were
guess
talking
what?
About,
Bat
in the
wings
same
are made out of
interview-
cartilage, motherfucker. Okay, it doesn't make any sense.
In the same interview where the director was kind of like explaining things a little more, they asked her about the like creature design, and she initially had said that she really wanted it to be like super cutesy, that she wanted it to look more like a Furby. And I was like, can you imagine a matted like
I think I
black
would have been into that. I think that would have hooked me back in.
I want to
So-
be your friend.
But I also thought like that I really liked the way that there's a lot of like the mold and like the black mold, and then these like visions he keeps seeing while he's fixing the house, like the Nautilus
Yeah, the
thing he
shell.
see. Yeah, he it was very reminiscent of I'm the quiet thing that lives in the like whatever
I'm
that
the
pretty
movie.
thing that lives
Yeah.
in the house.
House.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was like the mold was taking over the house. But I think that if you're able to give this movie your attention, it's really fantastic. I just wish I would have
Yeah.
been
that's-
100% into it from the beginning, so that I
That's-
wouldn't have had to
That's the
backpedal
point
as
I was
much.
making earlier, because that first half, when in the first half of this movie, when like the stuff with the bat in the toilet shows up, you're just like, what the hell? And you
Yeah.
have no context, don't know what. But if you stick with it, it does get explained.
Mhm.
And then when it does get explained, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So it does have its benefits, but it's just a rocky ride to get through there. And I don't
And
think
look-
some of the stuff with the flashbacks and stuff in the first half helps so much. Thank
I-
you.
I view some of that stuff as like having trust in the filmmaker, right?
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
this was a filmmaker that we all knew and that you had seen, like if this was like a Mike Flanagan movie,
Yeah.
you would have sat through way more stuff because you know that he's going to deliver the goods at a certain point.
Yeah.
Going into this as a movie you've never heard of,
Well, you just
like,
don't know
maybe
where
you
it's going. Yeah.
yeah, you don't know anything
Yeah.
about it, and like, so it does make you nervous to like, okay, like what the fuck, like is
Yeah.
Yeah.
is there going to be anything here? Again, like I would argue when you get to it, there's actually more going on, and there's actually like more crazy shit going on in this movie than in a lot of shit that we've seen.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where again, like maybe it's just a personal thing, like my tolerance for or like willingness to trust like that someone's going to deliver on that
Mhm.
is higher, but it's failed me in the past. So
Well, I mean, I think you're 100% right. Like I think I'm, currently in a position where I'm like probably not putting 100% into very much. So I'm just like, I'll sit through this. But this movie, I would say definitely goes in my top 5, and I will probably reference this movie as much as I reference like Song of Solomon, and how how good it is at really handling and like just deftly exploring a contemporary take on ancient gods. Like it's a really cool way to thread multiple time periods and still like, I don't know, encompass such a like cosmic
well, it's also
time.
it's also hitting on so many, in my mind, like political hot button
Oh,
issues,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's essentially a Me Too film.
For sure.
But it also pulls in this whole like refugee element
Mhm.
because I mean it's a little light and it's a little bit in the beginning, but there's like an an element where this guy is like basically working as a day laborer, or he's showing up in the U.S. It's like you show up at the Home Depot. Here it's like he's showing up by a fence, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's being yelled at, he's being mistreated by people on the street. So there's that element, and then he's quote unquote rescued by the church. So there's like I'm actually curious, and we should kind of like move toward the end of the film, but like I'm curious what people's take is on the nun and like what exactly we're to take away from her transformation. Do we want to?
I mean, I love the actress a lot, and I love the kind of how she's playing with that role.
So we'll throw it in the blanket spoiler, and maybe someone can remind me, like at some point so Joe referenced the dancing sequence. That's in my mind, that's the second act to third act transition, because now you have him fully hooked into her, but also now like fully reckoning with the guilt that he has over the transgression, being a rapist, spoiler alert, during the war. And so he basically passes out and he wakes up, and now the nun is in like normal clothes. And this is like, well, go ahead. No, that's where like,
well, yeah, I mean, I just think that it's important to like, especially because the third act of the movie is really fast paced, and like there's so much happening that like, it's such a change from the beginning of the movie that by the time you get to the third, you're like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch. So they go dancing, and
I love that
this whole
dancing
time, do what?
I love that dancing scene.
Dude,
she's a great dancer. It's like
pretty much
No, I really, but again, that's what I
appreciate
mean by like she's kind of cute and endearing, and it's just fun to watch. And then, but it's also a really weird
This movie
scene.
needed 75% more dancing scenes, and I would have been completely on board.
So there's this whole time in the beginning of the movie that Tomas and Magda are together in the house. There's some like weird looks between them. There's some like underlying tension that you can't really tell like if both of them are feeling it, if it's just one-sided on either side. And so there's this conversation where Magda is reading a romance novel, and she kind of makes a quip about how romance is basically paying your dues at the altar of love, and love is really a sacrifice. And you're like, that, that's kind of a throwaway line or whatever. You're like, okay, that doesn't make sense, especially to a philosopher. So he decides that he's going to do something nice for her, takes her dancing. They realize that like they are attracted to each other, and they kiss. And in the middle of them kissing, he like has a flashback of him raping this woman, and immediately feels guilty for it and runs off. And once they go back home, they end up having sex together. And once they have sex, it's essentially him like him making a sacrifice that he's like kind of unwillingly making. So when he wakes up, the nun is there.
Yeah. Okay.
And the nun essentially starts telling him like, so you kind of did it to yourself this time, right? And like there's some like weird back and forth, or actually just weirdness on her end that you're like not really sure what she's explaining to him.
Well, she's not in nun clothes anymore.
Right,
that's like the most important thing.
That's true. She's in normal clothes, and she even says like
she's unnunned.
Yeah,
she's been defrocked, I believe.
Oh, don't say that. I don't like when you say that, John.
Yeah.
No.
But as she's not a nun, she's like explaining, I've never really been very good at pretending to be a nun. I never got that part down. So like you see that there's a clear distinction between who she's been trying to be and who she actually is.
Well,
and
this is all the like hard demon stuff comes in
yeah.
now.
So then she starts bringing up the fact that like, essentially you really didn't think that was her mother up there, because there's been an incident where he realizes Magda's quote unquote mother bites her, and there's a scuffle between the three of them, and he sees this birthing scene, and he's like, this is super bizarre, like a woman this old and this like decrepit should not be having.
Well, she's also having bad children. Like it was,
that was the most.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's really
I actually don't think. I think he's still at that point under the sort of assumption that it's the mom, or it could be the mom.
Right.
Because to me, the biggest reveal is then when he goes up to kill the demon.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the nun has been telling him, like, you should have been picking up on this sooner.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she kind of goes into this like discussion of, well, demons are evil. You need to, they need to be contained. They need to be watched and kind of, put away from the world so they can't continue to be evil. And that's what Magda's job is. And because you love her and you want to take care of her and protect her, then, you essentially like slept with her. And so then there's a weird exchange too, where he realized, like, there's some conversation part in the conversation where the not nun tells him, don't you realize why you're here? And he's realizing that it's essentially his, like, that he thinks he's becoming a demon, or that he has been a demon, and that's why he raped this woman in his past, that he's always been bad. And he realizes that he can have Magda as like a handler, and the nun is like, no dude, she has paid her debt, like she's not going to be your handler. And he keeps telling her no and insisting that like he needs Magda. So the nun's like, okay, well, you have to go kill the demon upstairs. And then once he goes upstairs, he realizes that the demon is not a mother, or Magda's mother, that it's actually a man.
It's her dad.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Okay.
did not get that.
I'm going to be honest with you. I saw the wiener, but I'm not sure I fully put all of that together in the way you just described in a very succinct way that now makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
that
It was
my
like that.
question
It was
is,
like the
is
opening.
Magda
It was like the opening of The Hangover Part 2, basically.
So this was to me was like the like bridge, not bridge too far. Because it didn't like spoil, but there's like this bit of exposition where he finds a like used newspaper, or like
That's
a super.
right after he kills.
Yeah. And he finds it, and it's like, it basically explains that like the house belonged to this guy. This guy had killed his entire family so that he could marry his daughter.
Yeah.
And basically that was what my understanding, and I'm just going to play this out for CC because she has a better grip on what's going on here than anyone else.
I have thoughts.
My understanding is like the
I'm not
demon
listening.
is like
Agree to
moving
disagree,
from like
John.
evil man to evil man, and like the previous evil man was like this guy who killed his entire family to marry his daughter. My question is Magda the daughter? And then like, is the understanding that like the priest, or the not priesthood, the the priestesshood, we'll call it a priesthood, but for ladies,
The nunnery.
but that they basically oversee this transition from like evil man to evil man over time.
So I got a different take on this part to butt in here, and with like Tomas, when I think you explained it really well, CC, like that conversation between the nun, who's played by Imelda Staunton, who is Dolores Umbridge. She's fantastic in this. That scene where she's talking to him, and then she says, well, she's got this set up where we keep this thing contained, but they have to have a caretaker, and that was Magda's sentence, and she had to be the caretaker. And then she tells him, who do you want to, you have to pick your caretaker. And he immediately says, I want it to be Magda. And she says, she's already done her time.
Yeah.
So essentially, he's making the same choice for Magda as he did for that woman so many years before in his future at the war. He's making that decision for him. They don't get the input in it. And he's saying he is falling back to his old ways, just in a different form.
Yeah.
Also,
But like Magda was out, right? Like that's the thing. Like Magda was tied to that previous demon. That demon's moving on now into him. And so like, she's done, and like we see that this is like
he's saying he wants her back.
He was never going to get her. That was my understanding.
Yeah, so it's kind of it definitely has a lot of those elements in it, and essentially what I'm trying to think of the most succinct way to kind of explain it.
The end of the movie is like, it's not even about him. It's not.
It's about Magda. Yeah, it's about Magda, because technically the way that like, so the writer director was talking about like, because they kind of essentially asked like, what's the whole situation, like how's the ending, like what are you supposed to take away from the ending? And because essentially they're trying to talk about how Tomas thinks he's this evil demon, right? That like he he's always been this way, and that's technically why he raped the woman in his past. But really, it's just that, like, him finding the amulet doesn't make him turn evil. It's essentially like, if he didn't have that in him, he could have, it could have gone either way. He could have just found it and it would have been carried on, whatever. The amulet really is for the woman who gets raped, and it's really that, like, someone was there with her, that she wasn't alone while that was happening.
Well, that was my understanding of the amulet, because I also was curious what you read on. My understanding of the amulet is like, part of it was almost that I had a question of like, is that the like through line, right? To all of
well, it is, because what's happening is that it's not necessarily that it's the same demon. I mean, it's, all evil is evil. Like, it's supposed to be kind of a time is endless kind of thing. So
It's also a flat circle, I believe.
Yeah. So like the goddess is requiring to like kind of feed off of this, like she's a goddess who requires the sacrifice of these evil demons. And even though Tomas thinks that this is about him, that he's the one who's, the ultimate villain, he's not really the ultimate villain. The ultimate villain is the nun priestess who finds these guys who have done these evil things. And really, Magda is only the human form of the goddess, because Magna basically portrays herself as this, whatever form she needs to take to get that connection with that being. So like, I assume that Magda was the daughter of that guy, because that's who his like evilness was fixated on. So like, that's essentially what the nun meant by she's done her time. So I don't know how it would transpire moving forward, but we don't even know who his person is, and that's like that's what kind of what I loved about the movie is they're like, fuck this guy, like he's a demon now, fuck him, and we're done and we're moving on. So I do like that, you see the holiness version of the goddess who is in her cosmic world, who is very much present in this contemporary world, but she also, just like demons need the handlers, she kind of needs a human handler to do the physical work. And I think a lot of that, like a lot of Magda's personality, and like even when they go to the her and Tomas go to the market earlier in the film, she's like, oh well, I've never been any further, or I've never done any of this. Like, it's very telling of like, she's just this vessel. So I like that the ending is very heavy in women, or the female embodiment being quote unquote the ultimate villain, because they're essentially like honeypotting these men who are evil.
It was the best movie of the year. I think we agree.
I mean, I would say so.
I'm pissed because Cece literally just said everything I was about to say.
Yeah.
My
Damn
mic
it,
cut off.
Cece.
So, like, I was like,
Okay, you guys, I very much appreciate that. Are you guys done, or? I don't know.
Eric, do you have any other questions?
I have literally nothing else to add. Nothing.
He's like, I want to stop talking about
I
this
just
movie.
appreciate you guys being engaged, and I took a break, and now I'm back. All right. Would you?
I kind of want to watch this again now after listening to you two talk about it. Like,
No.
Like,
I
I
won't,
think
but
that it's one of those movies that's worthy of a second watch. Like, I think that even with having read those interviews and like knowing that, I think it's one of those movies you would constantly pick up on things and see like, oh, I should have been picking up on this from the beginning, or this is alluding or foreshadowing to what's actually happening.
Yeah.
I
was
don't
going to
disagree.
throw in there the only thing I think that they could, like, technically that they could have, the director could have done better is those flashback scenes, like the lady in his past when he was in the war and everything looked way too much like Magda, and it got confusing after a while.
Casey,
John,
he
you
didn't have a
picked up,
beard.
Yeah.
I know he didn't have a beard,
Yeah.
but there was still a redhead lady.
So Joe, I texted Joe, and maybe no one else caught on. Maybe someone did, but that woman in the flashbacks is one of the sisters from Dogtooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder. She looked familiar, and I
Oh
meant
yeah,
to,
okay, yes, you're right.
to
Yeah.
go back, but to Casey's point, like she did look very familiar, but I also think like again that's part of the whole like cyclical nature of everything that's happening in the movie. That like it's kind of telling he has a quote unquote type, in that he's drawn to a certain.
Well, it's kind of the telling that the goddess has a quote unquote type too, right?
Well, yeah, if you're evil and fucked up, she's gonna come
Yeah.
suck you
but-
into her shell and make you birth bat babies.
Mm.
All right, guys.
Fat babies.
As scintillating as it is, we got to move on. Would you recommend this movie, Cece?
You know, I'm really glad I wasn't on Maniac Cop and that I was on this one, because I would have been like, I'm really tired of talking about
Listen,
Maniac Cop.
it is actually very smart, but I just have zero to add. We covered it all. Would you recommend it, Cece? I assume this is
Yes,
a no.
I would.
Okay, yes from Cece. Joe,
It's a no for me, dog.
Casey,
I'd say yes. Stick around.
John.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a hard no for me as well, but I appreciate that there's something there. It's just not for me. All right, guys, it is time. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
The mindless, murderous fury that was buried with Jason has been reborn. Friday the 13th, Part 5. A New Beginning. Rated R.
Starts Friday at the Lyons Avenue and East Sprague Cinemas.
This is James Duval from Donnie Darko, May, and Sushi Girl, and you are listening to BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Joe, I have a serious question for you.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how exactly it is that you reached directly into my nightmares to plan your vacation.
I mean, that seems
Well,
like an
I mean-
awesome vacation.
No.
It was.
It was
a
literally
lot,
like you
but
just
it
compiled a
was
list
great.
of the worst things that I never want to do, and you did them for 2 fucking weeks straight. I'm very happy you enjoyed it, but I just would like to know how you know all that.
It was. So for the listener, we rented an RV.
Like maybe
for 10
any one of those
days.
experiences alone, aside from the spam museum, I would have been into, but all of them in a 2-week span in an RV, I think I'm good. That's a no for
I mean,
me.
the Spam Museum was on the way to our first stop, and like if you're gonna pass that, you gotta make the stop. And honestly,
you?
it was a lot nicer than we thought it was gonna be. Like it was legit, like
You
well put
gotta
together.
stop at the spam museum. I'm probing this. a
I'm
little bit.
I'm with him on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with
We're
you.
gonna be in the neighborhood. Like,
You can't miss
It's
that.
vacation. That's what that shit's there for.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 7 states, over like 2,700 miles in an RV. There was a lot of driving. There was a lot of emptying of the shitter.
Yeah,
So-
like it's a whole thing
Let me
you
ask
got to do.
this, because this is where my dad brain goes. Have you ever driven an RV before?
No, this is the first time.
Was it
So we
terrifying?
I was nervous about doing
It was pretty.
before,
It was pretty
but-
big.
So
Yeah.
we use this site RV Share, which is pretty much like an Airbnb but for RVs.
That's weird,
So
but
we met
okay.
the guy. He took me around the block a few times to show me how to drive it, and then like after that, it's if you've ever driven a U-Haul, it's pretty much the same thing. Like
Oh,
How about
yeah.
parking?
I will
though?
say, like now that I've returned it and done everything, so it has these things called slide outs. So pretty much you park, and then like the beds actually come out the side of the thing. So like you've seen, like if you've ever seen like an RV or a Winnebago, like some of them actually have like the side will come out, and you obviously drive with those in. And on the last day, I went to fill it up.
Hopefully
with,
you
yeah. So I made it the whole trip with like no issues. Like I barely even like hit a curb with the tires or anything. And then before I went to drop it off, I went to fill it up with gas and completely forgot to put in one of the left-hand sides. And I can't believe I didn't like destroy a car driving by me.
People were just honking at you like crazy. You're like, yeah, I am in a cool RV. Thanks.
My only other question is like,
anxious dad brain sees me leaving the lot with the RV and immediately like wedging it underneath an overpass.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job of like putting labels on everything, and literally had like a label in front of like the steering wheel at all times that just said 12 feet. Like, don't go under anything that's below 12 feet. So
serious question, Joe. Weren't you just like tired after 2 weeks? 1 week?
It was definitely nice to get home on Monday and sleep in our own bed. Unfortunately, we got home to a tornado warning, and within an hour of being home, our power went out.
Oh no!
For 3 hours.
Fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's exhausting, but it's also nice to like, you get to a campsite. It takes about like 15 minutes to hook everything up, and then you can just like relax. Like it was nice. I liked it. I don't think we'll do it again anytime soon, especially not for that long, but it was a blast. We saw some really cool places. We drove to South Dakota and saw like a few national parks. We saw the Badlands. We drove down to Colorado and saw the Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Did you do the Devil's Tower? Isn't that in South Dakota?
No, we didn't make it out to that. We rented a car in South Dakota, so it wasn't so bad because like literally you're driving up the side of mountains, which would have been terrifying in Winnebago. But I did do the RV at Red Rocks Amphitheater, which was a fucking nightmare, and I never want to do that again.
Okay.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Glad you're back in one piece, Joe.
Yeah, me too.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. First up from Alyssa, who of course is spearheading the book club. We are reading I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid this month. Super short audiobook, clocks in around 5 hours, and so far it's whack as fuck, she says. Patrons are currently voting for the September read.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know what the kids are saying, John.
I'm not sure, but it's being made into a Hulu.
That sounds
series,
bad.
I think.
Charlie Kaufman's doing the movie.
John, in our day, that would have been bad. Patrons are currently.
I thought I've seen a lot of people in the Slack channel saying that they really liked it. So
interesting. Patrons are currently voting for the September read, and they'll have that decided next week. So there you go. You can follow BGH Book Club on Twitter. Next up, a little message from Andy. He says, Adam, the BGH's lawyer on retainer, is back with a new In Extremis discussing obscenity laws and a Serbian film. No, thank you, but that's at bloodygoodhorror.com.
Yeah.
Natalie has a new primal scream about psychiatric ethics in Unsane. CC, I know you're with me on Unsane, a very unsettling, insane movie that's very good. Hard to watch.
Yeah.
Next week, Jason will have an interview with director Aaron B. Kuntz from Scare Package, Joe's favorite movie, about his new horror western, The Pale Door. Listeners can check out Luke's review of the film next week as well. Okay. Now we got a fan email. This is from Renee. Just watched The Rental. Wondering if you guys also thought it was weird that there was no casting credit for the villain. Was that Dave Franco? Did he wear that stupid mask because he was too pretty to hate? Just a thought. I
thought so
pretty.
too, but Dave Franco's on the he's
shorter.
not super tall.
Yeah, he's shorter.
And he's also not he's also more slender. So that guy seems
he's pretty beefy. The killer guy.
He seemed taller and beefy.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Dave Franco was the director. You're right.
Yeah. He is pretty though, for the record.
Maybe it's the unknown Franco brother.
P.S. Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens can wear me as a skin suit anytime.
Hell yes.
To each his own. PPS, please bring back Adam. I'm missing that salty Nova Scotia content. Lots of love, Renee. Thank you, Renee. And next up, CC. So we already read this one in the show, but who sent this? Shit, I don't have an email. The mocktails thing.
Oh, you read it off
yes.
the show. Chris, yes.
Chris
sent me lovely mocktails, and I'm so excited to try them because they sound awesome.
Yeah,
so thank
it
you.
was very sweet. He sent like full recipes, very thoughtful. They sound this blueberry lavender vodka spritzer sounds delightful. So
I'll be honest, I read it and I was like, this is a lot of work.
A lot of work. That was my first thought. I'm not doing that, but that's very.
I mean,
nice.
tasty. To be clear,
Bitch, do you not
You
think
guys
that growing a
plates
human
full
is
right
a lot of
now?
work?
You
Oh,
got
but see, but I'm saying like I don't make regular cocktails. Like I don't.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
either.
like,
Yeah.
No, that's true.
We're
Also-
not saying it sounds like too much
God
work for
bless.
Kyle. He's
I'll get you
totally
a
down for the
LaCroix.
work.
Also, John, your name,
Well, LaCroix.
John, just so you know, your name is officially bitch now. Thank you, CC, for that. Okay,
No,
so
that's true. I mean,
It's
I don't.
nice
I
to
barely
not
mix my
be on
own,
the
like,
receiving
my
end
own
of this for
cocoa.
once. It's
well, Joe, I'm gonna apologize then because I just before we toss to Twitter and Instagram here, I just want to say that Casey did Twitter last week and I did Instagram, and we weren't confused by a single question. So I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Although I did give you credit because I read a lot of your Instagram answers after we answered them, so you were present.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. No, it sounds like this Maniac Cop show was boring as fuck. So
Yeah.
Oh, you'll never know.
Oh, it's all you, buddy. What do we got?
Oh, all right. Yeah. So we are on Twitter. Do you want somebody else to do it?
No.
At BG Horror, we use the hashtag AskBGH. If you have a question about the movie or just anything in life. First up, 2 from our buddy Jason. That's at Nuke Spook. Would you guys ever consider a patron tier where a patron can request the movie you guys review? No.
I think I might
don't
have
wanna
brought
answer
this
for
up at
everyone,
one
but-
point and was violently shot down by everyone.
No,
So
well,
we
I just
actually
think
have
it's-
we've done a couple polls in Slack. So like
Yes.
where we just were like, hey, we're gonna pick through a bunch of classic movies. We don't know what to do, and I think we maybe done that with some new releases too.
I feel
and-
like if people drop into Slack with a good idea, we like kind of run with that because we
Or
are.
if
too
people
lazy
have
to come up with our
recommendations
own
though, we'll
ideas.
also just put it on the list. Doesn't mean we pick it, but we'll add it to our like queue.
All I'm saying
Yeah.
is, it's very tough to think of a way that you would have a tier where it's like someone pays and can request a specific.
I mean, I know
film.
podcasts that do it, but
No, I know it's. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
impossible. I'm just saying, given the way that we work,
I think the answer is get
yeah.
on Slack and bug us every day until we do
Yeah,
it.
that's actually.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
We've been doing I think I've been on the show for like 11 years, and I can't remember once where we've had a good suggestion from any of our listeners. No offense, guys, but
Oh my lord.
leave it to the
Lord,
pros,
Lord,
guys.
Lord.
All right.
Yeah.
Another one from Nuke Spook. I'm getting Japanese for lunch. Should I get the hibachi shrimp or chicken?
I like the shrimp and
Shrimp.
the hibachi. Yeah,
Tramp.
I think it depends on where you are.
yeah, that's
I
also
don't-
fair.
I'm a big fan of the steak and chicken mixed hibachi, but that wasn't one of the options.
Although
so-
I discovered, so Trader Joe's sells this shrimp that's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's actually weirdly like it's shrimp, but it's weirdly lobster-like. It's almost like in between the two things. And now I can't eat regular shrimp because it kind of grosses me out now because it's just there's something weird about regular shrimp. I don't like it.
It's like
Oh.
closer to having been alive. Is that? what's
I've been
bothering you?
converted now. I can't go back.
Having been alive.
Like there's nothing more
Yeah.
disgusting to me than just like you're at a party and you're like outside and there's just like a shrimp cocktail sitting in the sun. Like, dude, I'm not eating I don't care if there's ice around it. Like, I'm not eating this.
Oh, I'm eating that. I'm
Come
eating
on.
that scrimp
First of
no
all,
matter how
you're
I
not
can get
going to many parties, so you're full of shit.
John,
Fucking
I have
tentacle.
been to parties before. Okay, I'm familiar.
It's been a while.
Whatever, dude.
it. I love scrimp.
Just reminds me of that movie
Marcus-
Go. When Brackenmeyer eats all the shrimp and then he's just pooping. It's a good movie.
Marcus UC26. Is 2020 the horror movie that will never end?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Listen, bro. Yes, the answer is yes. There's no better answer to that.
Frank V1313. Has anybody spotted any pumpkin beers yet? Yes. Yeah.
I was going to
Actually,
say it's
when
got to
we were
be
out,
that time of year, yeah.
Yep.
we hit a few breweries while we were out, and a couple of them already had their pumpkin beers on tap, so it's coming.
Yeah, Sam Adams is out in Indiana, so if it's available here, it's available everywhere.
Nice.
Ken the Metal Professor, that's at Metal Prof. What percentage of Ask BGH questions do you think are sent from people who are sitting on the toilet? Hint, it's not 0%.
got-
I also
Yeah.
thought that you were going to say what percentage of ass, and I feel like that actually matches the question.
It
very well.
has to be a lot. Like there are people in my life who understand that if I ever send them a TikTok, it's because I'm pooping.
I thought you were gonna say if you ever sent a text, and I'm like,
No, not ever. Sometimes, but not ever.
yeah, sometimes.
See, you
not
guys,
every
I told
time.
you guys though, I muted our group thread only because when the conversation starts, it'll be like 15 texts in 5 minutes, and my nerves can't handle it. So like, I'll just come back to my phone and literally have 17 unread texts.
It's not that high a number, honestly.
No, I had at least 15 or 16 today when I looked away.
I don't know, but you guys get fired up, and then Colleen gets suspicious because I'm old and don't have that many friends.
That is very funny.
Our friend Lori, that's Hover Female. I'm not pleased with the fact that she changed her Twitter handle after I finally figured out how to say it, like with 3 or 4 years of her sending in questions. Of all the annoying catchphrases and overused buzzwords this year, I'm sorry. Of all the annoying catchphrases and overused buzzwords this year has festered and grown like a mushroom on a turd, what is your least favorite?
Let's circle back.
Let's circle back.
That didn't start this year.
No,
Like,
but
what?
it's in the
I've
it's in the
I've been
air.
saying
So
that
many
for
times.
years.
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
use it
saying
all
you
the
hear
time.
a lot more now on Zoom calls.
Yeah, I actually stopped saying it when the meme started hitting because I realized how much I say.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. All
I
of it.
celebrate all of those turns of phrase. It doesn't matter how.
Yeah, I'm with
overworked they
John.
get.
I go with them hard.
Yeah.
I think any buzzword related to the pandemic, I don't want to fucking
Yeah.
ever hear again for
I
the rest of my
hate
life.
having to write emails being like, I mean, I don't want anyone to not be safe and healthy, but I'm so fucking tired of being like, hope this finds you safe and healthy.
Oh, I've never
like,
said that in my
Yeah.
life. Why don't say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
And I don't mean it.
Okay,
Yeah,
There's a
don't
lot of
lie.
people I don't screw there.
You went coronavirus.
I just write, hey, comma,
Yo, bitch, we're in this together.
or I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I'm a hey person most of the time.
It's like, yeah, mostly, yeah, bitch.
Yeah. Sup, bitch, comma.
Oh, my Lord.
Here's from at Erie, Arizona, also COVID related. Aside from COVID-19, what's your ideal souvenir if you ever visit Arizona, aka Corona Zona?
I don't ever want to visit Arizona ever. I've never
I
had.
don't really want to go.
Yeah,
I
no.
love
Really?
Arizona.
Yeah, I want to go. Like,
Of course you do. Of
spent
course you do,
the,
Joe. Everything you want to do is my fucking nightmare, Joe. Of course you want to
Yeah.
go to Arizona.
No,
I know.
I did a long weekend in Sedona.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely town.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
They're
little.
supposed to have
I
a
have
amazing
wanted.
winery there.
I have thought about going to New Mexico before, but only because of Breaking Bad. I just want to see Breaking Bad places.
I wintered in Phoenix once.
I've been in Albuquerque. It's nice.
So
No, I'm fairly sheltered as far as travel goes, and there's a lot of other places I want to see before Arizona.
Yeah,
so,
like right. It's like 400th on my list.
yeah.
well, you can't go out of the country, so you may as well put Arizona a little higher up
That's
on
true.
that list.
Yeah, you got
That's fair.
Four Corners. You got isn't the
Someone's
the Grand
got
Canyon?
someone's got to visit Boise, John. Okay.
I would love to go to the Grand Canyon. That's very high.
Yeah,
up.
Yeah.
the great. I mean, that's
I've
definitely
never been.
an always
Yeah.
high point.
I gotta tell you, the Badlands, John. Cece too. It
Yeah.
was
No, I've been to
fucking
the Badlands.
amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
dude,
I
did it when I was in friggin' like elementary school. I think it was in 5th grade. So it's good times.
think I saw. Next up from our buddy Fuji Billy, what is your ending preference? Do you like horror movies that resolve on a general positive note, vague, or open to interpretation, or more nihilistic endings?
Nihilistic or open to interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't think
like the realistic
honestly, I don't think I care as long as the movie earns it. That's kind of more what I care about. Like,
As
I don't-
long as it's not a ghost movie.
well, yes, but because those endings are always the same. It's like literally,
I'm with Eric. I'm gonna go with Eric's answer on this.
But there was a time. I think a lot of it depends too. Whatever. I mean, I've just changed, and the genres changed. Like in the early, mid, late 2000s, I was just really into downer endings because the 90s, everything was always so clean and neat and tied up in a bow that I was just like, it was really refreshing to see downer endings. But now it's like I don't need that all the time.
Yeah. That's fair. Sometimes you need to see the good guy win, but it's usually fun. Is like you said, as long as they earn it, a good gut punch ending's always usually entertaining at least.
Yeah.
All right. Next up from Chris Alonte. If you could have an animated version of any horror movie, what would it be?
Scream? Leprechaun.
Mandy.
Does anybody else remember the Toxic Crusaders cartoon?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw it once.
What a weird thing that only the '90s could have birthed.
Right?
Yeah.
I had the action figures. I wish I still had
Did you?
those.
There was an NES game too, like a really bad
Yes,
NES
yeah,
game.
I do remember that.
But didn't he sell all that? Didn't Lloyd sell all that like 2 years ago to NBC or something? And we may see it something like it again.
He sold. It was weird. He sold off like a piece of some of the rights, so like he still retains some of it. But yeah, there was some kind of deal made where somebody could make some stuff with it.
Yeah.
All right, so this one I sent you guys before because I thought you needed to think about it. This is at Anna Claire Bloom. Do you guys like weird limited run snacks like apple pie Oreos and Kit Kats, questionable, and the like? If so, what have been your favorites?
I'm not really qualified to answer this, but go
Was
ahead, Cece.
really excited when the Shrek, when Snickers came out with those Shrek Snickers, but then I didn't realize that it was green, and I bit into it, and then I like choked and spit it out because I thought that there was mold
It's
in it.
bad.
Now it's really
I
funny.
do love.
I don't remember that either.
It's not
and
exactly the
that's-
same, but I really love Trader Joe's dedication to like insanely specific like seasonal content. Like you just go in there and there's always some new display with some weird. It's like pumpkin tortilla chips, and you're like, fuck it, dude, sure, like I'll try that.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So Oreos, I feel like, is the only one of these snacks that I've had at any level of frequency, and there's no seasonal Oreo that I won't try. You bring in those Oreos into my house, I'm gonna eat them. That's
Yeah.
My household's a big fan of the seasonal Lay's flavors that come out for like their flavor contest every summer. Those are usually pretty fun.
Oh, I haven't seen those, but I would
Like
definitely.
yeah, they have like a New York or like a deep dish pizza one for Chicago, and I had one that was like a chicken street tacos the other day.
Yep. Okay.
I do enjoy the Hershey Kisses, like the seasonal ones, like the candy cane ones they come out with, or they have like a cherry cordial. John, you might want to pick those up.
No.
Did anyone see? I posted this in the food channel on Slack, but there is a Thanksgiving dinner Brock's candy corn coming out.
Huh.
Yeah.
I do like me some candy corn, so I'll give it a
Get
shot
in on it.
because the candy corn Oreos are pretty good too. I will give them
Yeah.
an A++.
The candy corn M&Ms, hot garbage.
Yeah.
I haven't had those. I believe.
They just taste like a white chocolate, which everybody knows is trash chocolate.
Yeah. It's definitely below regular chocolate. I agree.
Daniel Garms, what is the creepiest thing your kids have ever done?
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, like
I mean,
creepiest to find how, right? Like, there's been shit that they've done that
Did
scared
it,
me.
Joe? Wasn't there something where Mark and John were at your house, and your daughter, when she was really young, referred to them as prisoners?
That was Mark.
It was Mark. Yeah, we were playing video games, and my daughter's playing, and then at one point she just turned and said, "Can the prisoner play a game?" She also one
amazing.
time when Leslie was changing her, they were playing like, like "I Got You" or something like that, and then at one point Mia just leaned in and goes like, "You're never getting out."
Yeah. I don't know if I have a good one off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Can't
I don't
wait
have a
for
good
that.
one off the top of my head, but we did catch Delaney watching the Monsters HD channel back in the day, watching Jason Takes Manhattan at like 3
Oh.
while Colleen was doing laundry.
Monsters HD, man, throwback.
Oh,
I
it was
miss
good
it.
stuff.
Jesse Rad, not so much a question, but catching up on episodes, and heard you talking about running beer through a Randall. A cidery here in Portland made a Gravenstein cider run through 5 pounds of Sour Patch Kids.
Oh.
Sour Patch Graveyard
Oh no.
was its name. Good stuff.
Why?
Ah,
That sounds.
Would
I would
drink.
definitely try it.
I'd try it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
A few more here. Head and Shot Keith. Why isn't the 80s The Blob the best movie of all time? And do you think more dogs should die in movies?
No.
It's
No.
pretty good, man. I mean, like
I'm not touching the
Yes.
second part.
the shit they accomplished on the Blob with practical effects in '88 is fucking mind blowing, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, but what about accomplishing setting up Matt Dillon as a badass with his little black biker
I mean,
jacket? and
that's
his
the thing is-
pristine white shirt.
For me, he's the least likable part. I just don't. Is it even Matt Dillon? Or isn't the other Dillon?
I don't remember which Dillon.
I
it
don't
was. It was
remember
one of
now.
the two.
But yeah, I don't know. Like he specifically is my least favorite part of it. But the the movie's amazing. It's really good.
Yeah.
And for the record, I could barely watch Magda step on that ugly ass bat creature in this movie, so I definitely don't want a cute dog dying in a movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
G.S. Siller. Why are they making a reboot of Saved by the Bell, and why am I going to watch it?
Dude, the trailer's kind of interesting. Did you see it?
Yeah, it was really funny.
It's real wild. Like they're kind of leaning into this weird, bizarro comedy universe version of it.
like
And it's
21 Jump Street-esque.
yeah, and it's very slick looking and knowing. Like I might. I mean, no, because is the Peacock free though? Because I'm not signing up for that shit.
Yeah, that's what.
yeah.
Wait, Peacock is free.
It has free options, but I think some of the original stuff you have. Well, no, maybe it is. Free.
No, I think it's all free. It's ad supported.
That's another one that you can't get on Roku yet, so I'm clueless. I did not know that the Saved by the Bell remake was occurring until yesterday. I shit you not. And being quarantine life, it made my fucking day.
Casey, it's the other Dylan. It's Kevin Dillon, the worst,
Oh.
the worster Dylan.
The worst Dylan.
Shawnee Smith is in that movie too, from the Saw movies.
Oh,
Yeah,
Shawnee.
she was his girlfriend.
No shit.
All right, Skizbot. Last but not least, here. Do you have a personal favorite horror decoration? Or sorry, do you have a personal favorite Halloween decoration that you put up every year? Mine has become a spooky skeleton candle that our very own Caitlin made.
That's awesome.
Aw.
I used
nice.
to take like cardboard stand-ups and then put like costumes and masks over them, and then use strobe lights like facing them in the window. It was really creepy because then if you pull curtains behind it, then the strobe light kind of hits the curtain. I made multiple little kids cry doing that.
Congrats, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
we add stuff every year, so I don't know if I have like a favorite. So cool.
That one's mine, and I just happened to have it here because I brought it home from my office yesterday.
Do we want to bang out a few Instagram questions?
Yeah, but give me the best quick. We'll do a little lightning round.
All right, our buddy Robale Dude. Should we all just quit our jobs and live in RVs?
No.
No. I can say after 10 days, no.
No.
Do not do that.
It's like you don't want to live in a fucking tiny house either, dude. Believe me. You think you do? You do not.
Yeah. It's fun for a few days,
Yeah.
but even 10 days was pushing it.
Go Airbnb a tiny house and then come back to me.
Let's see. As a fellow elder statesman, can you give me your best guess at what a WAP is?
Oh, I know what it is, and I'm not gonna say it.
I know what it is now.
Yo,
That was a
I'm
whole
so
odyssey.
excited
That was a
about
whole.
that song.
That was a whole odyssey we went on together on Slack this week. It's a really good song.
Eh.
It's a jam.
I was completely offline for like pretty much the entire trip, and then the day before we got home, we were just hanging out. So I started like skimming through Twitter and stuff, and saw all this stuff about WAP. So I looked it up, and I was trying to watch it like while my 1-year-old was crawling all over me like a jungle gym, and it was
Not good.
real weird.
I mean, it hit that peak for me where I've been hearing and seeing things in tweets for a week that I didn't understand and ignoring them, and then eventually when it hits a certain critical mass, I'm like, fuck, I need to find out. So I just went to Slack and was like, somebody tell me what this is.
Yeah.
And they did explicitly.
Just watched Freddy vs. Jason. Am I crazy, or is it one of the better, if not best, entries in both franchises?
You're not crazy. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's hot garbage.
CC.
Shots fired.
Now you're just being hurtful.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever even seen it.
See, I knew it.
It's
You're just
actually
being
really good.
mean because it
I gotta say,
sustains you.
like, not to be weird, but Kelly Rowland's homophobic like
Oh,
slur in the middle of it. I'm just like, why? Why do you have to like ruin this?
No,
movie
so if
with
you
this?
watch the
Like,
Crystal Lake Crystal Lake Memories documentary, they actually like totally address it, and
yeah,
they address like my only real complaint about the movie, which is like there's some real weird, abrupt like lines and screenwriting things, and Ronnie Yu talks about basically having the movie recut, taken out of his hands, and it added a bunch of really awkward kind of transitions and stuff. But it's a fun ass movie. Like when you get to the end of that movie, and they're just like stabbing each other, and there's showers of blood coming out. It's fucking amazing. It's really
it's
good.
great. I made Leslie go see it in the theater, and like literally, I was like grabbing her arm when they finally started fighting at the
Oh
end.
my
and, like,
God, it's
I
so
was
much fun,
squealing
like-
a baby.
Because it's such a challenge to try to get those two figures and they're with their different things to like fight and make it be fun. Like the greatest moment, I always say this, one of the greatest moments in that movie is the second that Freddy comes out of the dream at the end. Like literally this like new metal song kicks in and he looks around and he like realizes where it's like this brilliant moment of Robert Englund acting that I love.
That's great. We'll do one more because it's getting late. What is your favorite cover song?
That's tough.
I will say Cece's is Blue Monday by Orgy.
I was just like talking about like I really like the cover.
You know, I am actually really glad you say that because you're right. I do listen to that.
That is a good
lot.
song. No, it's actually a good. I'm down with that. I really like
I always
the.
forget that people can see what you listen to on Spotify, and sometimes I'm like, I've literally been listening to this one song for like 3 days straight.
Oh, Joe specifically will call you out about it.
Just
I've learned.
looking at Spotify and I'm like, oh, Cece still listens to Marilyn Manson.
Yep.
I really like the cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper" on the Scream soundtrack, which is a really random deep cut, but it's really good.
Yeah, I really like "Trampled by Turtles" cover of "Codeine."
I do like "Trampled by Turtles." It's good beard music.
John, you got anything?
No, I got nothing off the top of my head.
I answered this on Instagram. I love Jimmy Buffett's cover of Southern Cross. It is classic. Whoo!
Okay.
Check it out, John. I'm telling you, you're gonna like it. Feel good hit.
I'm sure he brought a lot of artistry to it.
Not gonna fuck with the buff. That's it.
All right, we made it, you guys.
We made it.
Huzzah.
That's gonna do it for this movie that is called Amulet. We're not sure what we're doing next week. We're gonna pick it. You can check out our socials. If you're on Slack, we definitely will post it there. And yeah, we are cooking up some fun things for the fall that maybe we'll be talking about soon. So hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.